Welcome to Patreon episode 13 of Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight, as usual, I am sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As I always say, these are episodes that will only go out to the Patreon feed, at least for a while anyway, so I don't have to go through the whole usual introduction. So thank you all to those who sign up for the Patreon page. And these are sort of my gift and my extra content for you all for supporting the show. And so with that, I think we can get right to the stories here. And let me see here. Get to the document again. This first one says, this happened a couple of weeks ago. At first, I tried to write the whole strange experience off, but now I find it unsettling when I think about it. I was walking into my room. I saw my cat trying to reach something under a bookshelf. At first, it reached under the bookshelf, but then stopped and jumped onto one of the shelves and looked back down at the floor. That's when I saw a weird, small shadow dart out from underneath the bookshelf. It ran into a corner of the room and disappeared. It was round and small, around the size of a rat, but it was only a shadow. It appeared to glide along the floor as well. It then disappeared into the shadows in the corner. Apparently, my cat saw the shadow object as well. It moved its head, following the shadow's movement. I've never heard of a ghost being so small. I still don't know what to think of the experience. The whole thing was mundane, but weird at the same time. Has anyone else had a similar experience? And that's where that one ends. I don't know what to make of that, except I would wonder. I mean, there is no definition as to what ghosts or spirits have to appear to be. There's no reason why, I guess, they can't just manifest or just be any shape or size that they want to be if they sort of think that way. I do wonder if, again, just like there are, not all shadow entities are necessarily spirits, possibly, then do all of these sort of smaller shadow entities, why can't some of them be spirits of people too? But then it is odd that it would do that and then go into the corner like that and then vanish. Unless they weren't focused on sort of the form. And I don't know. There's a lot of questions there. It reminds me in a way of another account I shared on these shows a while ago. I wonder now if there are any power outlets in that corner of the room, because there was a similar story I shared, an account of an experience I shared in the show a while ago, where someone saw a small shadow basically move across their floor in their house, heading towards and disappearing into a power outlet. So I wonder if there was any power outlets in that corner of the room where the person saw this thing vanish into. I mean, not that it has had to do that, but just I'm curious about that now. As to what it was, I have no idea, but these shadows appear to be similar to the way two lights that appear as well, in that they seem to be the size and shape and all that are not standard. That they can be any size or shape that they are, or that they want to be, or who knows how that works. And so I don't know. That's a neat one there, because you have confirmation. I mean, the person wasn't even aware of whatever this was at first until their cat. They noticed their cat trying to get to it. Now, I wonder, does that mean it was some kind of a spirit of some small animal. That's kind of sad to think about, an animal trying to escape from a cat even after they've already passed. But, or was it something else that was sort of, I don't know, did the cat just want to get it out of their home? And it was not so much trying to get it as a cat would to, like they would normally do with some smaller animals, to eat it. That's a terrifying thought. What happens if a cat eats a shadow figure? But then again, who knows how that works? I mean, cats do seem to defend against different kinds of energies, so I wonder, sort of can different animals take in energies and entities and sort of consume them the way they would living creatures? And again, I have no idea. But it is wild that you had two living beings that became aware of whatever this was. So there's confirmation there, in that way. And I don't know. That is quite the experience to have. I wonder if anything ever happened there again with that. Doesn't A lot of times it seems like if people post on these websites, if they have multiple experiences with something, they'll say it. But then again, it depends, because I can imagine some people probably make these accounts and share their one experience, and then if they may never want to go on the site again. I mean, but they may have experiences. It's hard to say. Yeah, DG in the chat says they say cats protect from evil. So yeah, I mean, could be that this cat chased whatever this was off, and it was some kind of small, or at least appearing to be something small that was evil. It's hard to say. So that's a wild experience there to have. I thought that was neat, because the other one, that, like I said, the previous one that had a small shadow, a person saw it, but there was no other. Not that I'm doubting that the person saw it, but there was no other verification. This one, there's verification, but in the opposite order. A lot of times these accounts, it's the person that sees or senses something first, and then the animal. They notice the animal reacting to it. This time it was the animal that was letting the person know about something going on there, which does happen as well. So anyway, moving on to the next one here. Let's see here. This one says, I am sitting here crying on the couch while I write this. It has been a hard few days. I was taking a migraine nap on the couch. I had a vivid dream, which is unusual for me. I was in a nice apartment filled with family members, mostly those that are going on a big vacation next summer. My aunt, who passed away over 10 years ago, was present as well. She was glowing, not in a mystical way, but joyously and lifelike. She was smiling and laughing, but she wasn't actively interacting with others. Her husband, children, and grandchildren that she never met were also there with us. I moved closer to her and asked if she was excited about the upcoming summer trip. My aunt turned and looked at me. I remembered that she had passed away. I started crying in the dream and woke up crying. I reached out to my cousin and told them that I thought my aunt was checking in and letting us know that she's okay. She looked fantastic and healthy in the dream. I miss her and her infectious laugh. This is the first time I have experienced such a dream. I wrote this down to preserve the memory and emotions of the experience. And that's where that one ends. I wanted to share that because of how it reminds me of my own experience, which is kind of similar. I've shared it before, but I'll just sort of summarize it again because I had a dream about my grandma not long after she passed, and in fact, I had a few over time, but this one was like not long at all, months, maybe weeks, not sure. I'm terrible with time now, but um, in this dream, I was in what used to be their house, what used to be my grandparents' house, and I was sitting on the living room couch. All the furniture was there, but all of their small belongings, all of the stuff on the tables and cabinets and all those things, all that was gone, except my grandma's cell phone, which she had after my grandpa passed away. My family got one for her, and it started ringing, it started making noise. So I picked it up from the table, and I expected it to light up and show a screen that would let me answer it, but nothing happened, but the ringing stopped. So I put it up next to my ear and said hello. And my dad, who is very much alive, luckily, said there we'll be there in a minute. And I said, okay. And I put the phone back down on the table because the screen still never lit up. And after that, the front door opened and people started filing in. And it was all family members. And it was all people that, again, are very much alive. And they were there, but it was like it was just the images and sounds of them. And I followed them into the dining room. And as I did that, my grandma walked in. And now in the last, I don't know, 10, maybe 20, I'm not sure. In the last years of her life, she needed a cane or a walker sometimes to help her get around. But in this dream, she didn't need any of that. She just walked in with no trouble at all. And there were steps to get up to into the house. There was a couple outside the front door of the porch, and then a couple to get into the house. And she just walked in, and I could tell, I could feel there was a feeling. I could tell it was her. It wasn't just the image of her; it was her. And so we all went into the dining room, and some people from the family went into the kitchen, as if to get ready for a big family gathering, making food and all that, or getting food ready and all that. And so I stayed in the dining room, and my grandma sat down in her favorite chair, and I stood nearby watching her, just watching her. And she was just looking around, smiling at everyone, and then just every so often she'd look at me and smile at me. And I could tell she was really looking at me, and everything was okay. And not long after that, I woke up, and I woke up crying because I knew that it was her, and I knew that she was telling me she was fine. So yeah, Mike in the chat there. Hello, Mike. Hello, everyone. Yeah, the familiar spirit. If I could talk. So I just wanted to share that account in one of these shows because of the similarities, and so I always love it when I can find something that is like that. That is sort of has that same kind of a theme or situation where it seems to be a loved one that has passed on coming back to say everything's okay, I'm okay, because that's amazing, and that doesn't happen to everyone, and with every family member that passes, that's not anytime that happens to anyone, that is a really it's an amazing thing. It's so yeah. Anyway, just wanted to share that one. Moving on to the next one here. Let's see. Gotta scroll a little bit again. So this one says, I don't believe in ghosts or spirits, but I do believe in energy and the universe. This happened 3 days ago. I saw my landlord, who is a sweet little old lady. She reminds me of my mother. I didn't greet her as usual, as it was really hot outside, and I was in a rush to get home. I felt guilty, wondering if it might be the last time I'd see her. Later that night, around 11 p.m., I was making dinner when I suddenly lost all power in my apartment. I tried to fix it myself, but without success. I called my landlord, but got no answer. I knocked on her door with no response. I went to a local deli to charge my phone for an hour. When I got back to the building, an ambulance was outside. Something had happened in my landlord's apartment. The next day, I learned that my landlord had passed away. Usually, I would consider this a coincidence, but I feel there might be more to it. I have had experiences with strange coincidences before, but this felt different. Has anyone had a similar experience? And that's where that one ends. I'd be curious to know if it was just that individual's apartment that experienced the power loss, or do they mean it was the whole building or a whole part of a building? It sounds like the other buildings in the area were not affected. I don't know what to make of that, but I do get what the writer is saying there. I've listened to a lot of shows, as I always say, and heard so many accounts of people who have shared experiences where they thought or they said to someone else, wouldn't it be weird if this happened? And then that very thing that they mentioned, happened the way they mentioned it. So I don't know what that is. Is that precognition? Is that sort of unintentionally people manifesting things in reality, making things happen? I don't know. Hopefully not. But so that's sort of what that account of the experience reminds me of. I wonder if there was some kind of energy surge. I mean, I don't know. That just affected the two apartments, the one with the landlord and the one with the writer there. A lot of things that are just unclear just because of the way this works, where you get what you get in the account of the experience. That it's not an interview, so you don't get to ask questions. But I don't know. I do understand why the writer there was wondering about whether there might be more to it than a coincidence. Hopefully it was just a coincidence, but yeah, it's looking in the chat here. DG says, I think when your mind goes to death, you almost feel guilty, even if there was nothing you could do. Yes, definitely. Yep. So that's the other side of it too, which is that it could have been just a coincidence, but then again, it could have been that there was something going on there. There was some sense, even though there was a sense. Maybe there's something you could have done anyway. Because again, it's a landlord. It's not like it's someone. Doesn't sound like the writer knew them really well. Even then, what are you going to do? Go up and you don't want to go up and tell someone, I feel like you're going to die soon. That just does not sound like a very nice or a very wise thing to do. So especially if you don't have any other details as to how it's going to happen like that. But so yeah, I thought that was an odd account there of an experience, and I don't know if the writer there sort of feels like there may have been something more. Then maybe there was. Maybe it's if they're feeling that, then maybe there was. Not necessarily that they have anything to feel guilty about, that they have to feel guilty about, but just that maybe they picked up on something that was going on or going to be happening, and then it was confirmed, of course, later. So, moving on to the next one here, we'll get at least one more in for this episode, and see where we go from there. This one says, this happened in the summer of 2018 or 2019. And I know that sounds weird to some people sometimes, but believe me, it can be hard when years pass to pin down when things happen. And so, anyway, says, I was with my best friend, another friend, and their romantic interest. My friend had a large property with a gazebo. We were hanging out there that night. We suddenly heard sounds of a fight from a neighbor's property about a block away. We decided to investigate, even though it was a bit of a hike to get there. As we turned a corner, my best friend and I saw a vivid image. It was a ferociously burning tree knotted up into a horrible cross-like formation. It was only there for about a second. I have confirmed the shared experience with the group multiple times over the last 4 years. We never did discover the source of the fighting sounds. All 4 of us heard the initial sounds. My best friend passed away a little less than a year ago. We met in 1997. We had many experiences of synchronicities throughout our friendship, but this one was by far the strangest of all of them. But what did the image mean? Was it a shared manifestation of caution about approaching a fight? I'm still in contact with the mutual friend, and I'm thinking of asking them for their recollection of that night as well. Has anyone else had a similar experience? I know I say that a lot, but that's how a lot of these end because they're posted on forums and things like that. So that is a wild one. I've never heard of that kind of an apparition before. It does sound like it was an image of some kind. It doesn't sound like it was a tree that was there. Because it did appear and then faded away. I wonder if some entity or someone out there, some guardian maybe, knew that something worse was happening a block away and didn't want one or more of the people in that group to get involved. I think that's possible. Sort of I don't know what else to do, so I'm going to show this image in front of these people to get them to stop because they shouldn't be involved in whatever is going to happen or whatever is happening. That's the only thing I can think of for sure with that as far as possible explanations, but I don't know. At least there was 2 people that saw it, but then I wonder why did the other 2 people not see it? Unless they were all looking in somewhat different directions, that's possible, as they were sort of moving around. But yeah, that's a wild one. That's I'd be wondering about that as far as what that symbolism means. And yeah, so that's a neat one. That's hopefully everything worked out for even the people that were in that other block in that other area. But yeah, I think there are other entities out there that do things for various reasons, and sometimes it's as simple as making an image, whether it's out there in the open and it's actually there or it's in the minds of the people that they're trying to contact. I do think that happens. And again, I do think, there can be a lot of reasons for that. And it's hard to know what they are or who is doing it. So, but that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for listening. And I will talk to you all on the next episode of Salsido Paranormal. Take care.